Signing a settlement agreement can be very similar to signing an agreement to get a new phone contract, for example, but mostly people don't read those terms and conditions, but it is vital that you do read the terms and conditions with the guidance and advice of a lawyer, which is what is paid for by the employer. Now that you know what a settlement agreement is, and you also know who you can take with you and the sort of discussions to have, now let's look at the clauses that are involved in a settlement agreement. In the advice section that you can go and get from the independent lawyer, it says that a signature is required by the employee to confirm that they have had advice to understand the terms and the effect of the agreement and the employee's inability to pursue any legal rights, such as at the employment tribunal, if they sign this agreement. So in essence, what the advisor needs to be telling you is that once you've signed this agreement, that is it. You will not be able to go to the employment tribunal. I have had people come to me actually and say, oh, we can sue them now. That really does actually not mean that you can then take the agreement as well. So I have to point out to a lot of people, you cannot simultaneously sue your employer. If you decide to take the settlement agreement and then you decide to issue legal proceedings, then your employer has every right to come back at you. And there is always a clause in this to say, if you instigate legal proceedings or if you go outside of this agreement, then we will want our money back and action can be taken against you. So be very, very careful. There are very, very difficult times sometimes when employees leave employment. And, you know, I totally sympathize with certain situations, but I think it's very important to understand that no matter how angry you are or how annoyed you are, sometimes it's better to cut your losses and don't simultaneously go and do something which is going to jeopardize your agreement. I do remember there was one incident when I was doing a settlement agreement with somebody. I was actually in the office doing it with them, and I had a phone call from the employer to say that they're going to pull the agreement if the employee does not restore all the data. Now, I did not know anything about what had happened. The employee was sitting in front of me going through the agreement, but what they hadn't told me was when they left the job, they'd gone on the computers and deleted everything for the employer. And obviously the employer didn't like this because they were the person that was managing the IT. I would say that person was very lucky because the employer still was happy for them to take the settlement agreement, because some employers would have used that to say, right, we're pulling the agreement and we will take you through some sort of internal process for disciplinary and gross misconduct, perhaps to sack the person. So just be very careful on things you do. Taking a settlement agreement does not mean you can just suddenly do all these different things which were on your wish list against the employer before you left. So for example, you're going to tell them how you feel about them. You're going to go around to the office and throw a cup of tea on somebody. Not like you would, but you know, so settlement agreements normally require you to sign all your rights away effectively. However, one of those rights that you do not need to sign away and you cannot be made to sign away is a personal injury claim. Now, the settlement agreement may say that you have no knowledge of any claims up until the date of you leaving, and therefore you will not be bringing any personal injury claim. Okay, so that's fine, but it can't make you then not bring a personal injury claim against the employer if 2 years down the line you go to your doctors and something happens and you get diagnosed with repetitive strain injury, for example. If you don't know about the personal injury at the time of leaving, that's fine. But sometimes in personal injury, you can make a claim later because you did not have the knowledge at the time. And secondly, personal injury law has different rules and you can bring claims within a certain amount of years of knowing. And obviously you need medical evidence for that. I've dealt with settlement agreements where employees are working for UK companies abroad. So for example, people who are working in Dubai, or they're working in Kuwait, or they're working in another different country, and the UK employer wants to end the agreement, it will be governed by UK law, because that is where the employer is based. If a settlement agreement has become a point of discussion for you, and if you are an employee or an employer, please come and talk to me in the free 15-minute sessions. You can self-book these on my website, www.thedirectaccessbarrister.com. I am Haresh Sood, and this is Pancho.